if the court's cooperative, if the court is saying, sure, we want to help law enforcement make an arrest, they have every right to do so. The question of whether they can make arrests in the courtroom is, can they do it without the permission or cooperation of the court? The court has purview over its own courtroom. So he seems to be suggesting, hey, in other cases, they've let arrests go on. They weren't immigration related. They were something else. And he was surprised at this. That does seem to be a point that we talked earlier to Sheriff. Why am I blanking? Sheriff, Dodge County Sheriff.
Oh yeah, Dale Schmidt.
Dale Schmidt. We talked to Dale Schmidt about this, and he said in Dodge County they're cooperating.
Yeah.
So I just wonder here how much that plays into the cooperation or lack of based on the circumstance.
I think what we're seeing is the differences between the judges, and the judges are sort of subtly exposing where they stand, and so they think they could have come into her courtroom and they could have done the arrest. But they did not say that to her, and they did not insist on that prerogative to her. They were sitting in the hallway. They were waiting for the person they wanted to arrest to be in the hallway, and they weren't in any way imposing on her prerogatives. And so it seems to me that weakens her case, that she had to come out into the public corridor to talk to them. She sends them away, ostensibly to talk to Chief Judge Ashley, and then she's got a split minute. She's got a split minute where she thinks all the agents are in Judge Ashley's office. And she goes back into her courtroom, and based on the testimony so far, she calls this person's case right away.
Which was not the order expected.
Which was not the order,
yeah.
And points them to the hallway. And I think one could interpret that as being deliberate. You could also say, well, what if there was a judge who was pro-Trump? A judge who was pro-Trump could have taken the exact same circumstances and may have acted differently, may have, I don't know, invited the agents into his or her courtroom, may have told the suspect to please stand up, identify himself or herself, and then get arrested. And so we're seeing the discretion that a judge has and how sort of through the cracks their personal political philosophy seeps out.
It's such an interesting time to be having this discussion, too, because we're now months removed, right? But it goes back to April of this year. That had been basically 3 months since the inauguration at that point, since all of these policies had necessarily changed. And there seems to be, from the testimony that we've gotten today, so much still unknown and unsure direction at the county courthouse on how these were going to happen. Do you see that playing in as a major factor in the ultimate verdict from the jury? Or is that kind of surrounding the fact of what Judge Dugan actually did that day? Because the defense certainly is bringing that up repeatedly, the lack of, I guess, direction from the chief judge.
You know, I think this is almost like Civics 101 or Poli-Sci 101, because what it's showing us is how much discretion presidents have. And that when Biden was president, he did not want arrests in a courthouse unless certain urgent
There's a fairly
details.
high bar
Absolutely.
for those arrests.
And then in comes another president, different party, different political philosophy, and he flips the administrative policy. That's how much power, to use the term that President Trump likes, the deep state has. Yeah. He gets to tell the deep state, sure, go into the courthouse and arrest them. Whereas my predecessor, Mr. Biden, said, don't go into the courthouse. And so when we as voters vote for president, we're not just deciding on Democrat versus Republican or pro-choice versus pro-life. We're deciding on these very minute details of administrative policy that the executive branch has so much discretion to interpret.
And it is not as though this was not something President Trump failed to campaign on. This was something that was a key part of his campaign, is I'm going to do this. Maybe not specifically courthouses, but I'm going to ramp up enforcement on immigration.